I'm here with DJ Soucy of the DJ Soucy Group, good friend and client that we've been working with for many years. DJ, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Cool.
You know, one of the things that we've been doing in terms of preparing for today is going back and looking at for me personally, how blessed, I've been in relationships with many of you for many years.
Mhm.
You and I have a great friendship and have been working together. And so I think, what's interesting about that is a lot of people might say that business is separate from personal. What do you say to that about, your business and even just our partnership together?
I mean, there's different levels to it, and I mean, just like any relationship, business and professional and personal, that grew with time. But at the end of the day, uh, some wise man that I knew told me it's both of our businesses are relationship businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of businesses, you've not been doing real estate forever.
No.
This is not the first career for you or the first business for you. And, quite frankly, there's a ton of articles that kind of give a bad rep to starting a career, second career, or doing things later, or that the workforce is somehow going to be 19 forever. You took a leap of faith and started a business. Walk us through the process of what took you to arrive to a new place and a new business. And what do you say to some of those people who say starting a business after 50 is not doable?
Who's 50? Just kidding. I am over. But yeah, I started when I was 50. So my husband and I, as you know, moved from Chicago to St. Pete. Prior to that, every real estate transaction we'd ever gone through was like a fairy tale. Like Bambi came out, birds chirped, everybody agreed to everything. Everything was on time, like no hiccups. So I was living in my own kind of fantasy land of how real estate was. Like HGTV did seem true, right? And then we bought a house in Florida. And it was a really lackluster experience, to put it politely. We just didn't feel communicated with. We didn't feel like anybody was really advocating on our behalf, really hearing us. So having moved down here, not sure what I wanted to do for work, I spoke with a few friends who were in real estate, and they had told me over the years that, oh, that's something you should do. I really feel you'd enjoy it. You'd be great at it. And I'm like, not me. I'm not a salesperson. So after thinking about it, discussing it with Damien, he just had a good point that, I have the business smarts to do it. And the difference between myself and the experience we had with the agent when we bought here was I know how to treat people. And, that kind of felt like that there was an opening there for me. Because if this person could have a successful business in
Doing
that manner, right? I was like, maybe I can do a little bit better. So yeah, it was super scary. I hadn't taken any kind of test or classes in, I don't know, well over 30 years. So it was a little intimidating, but as you know, I did, got my license, and jumped on board with my first brokerage, where I got to lucky enough to meet you.
Well, talking about your first year, was it all heart, stars, and horseshoes? Was it perfect?
No. It was a tremendous amount of work, which didn't scare me. It was more of a fear of the unknown. Because, to remind you, when we moved here, we had never been here. The only time I had been to St. Pete or Tampa Bay was to look for a home. We didn't know anybody, really didn't know the area. So I just, as you know, I was really concerned that I was like starting off with multiple handicaps.
Right.
But, obviously got through those.
Well, and I do think, there are certain people that will look at others, oh, they came from this particular area. Either they're well connected or maybe they've married someone who's well connected. There are certain things that are there. What do you say to someone who feels like they have a lot of things stacked against them? Should they still take the leap of faith, or what advice do you have?
Well, it's not really that, at least the way I look at it, it's not stacked against you. You just have to pivot and do things a little bit differently than people who have those so-called advantages. I don't find that those have always been a surefire thing for people who get in real estate. I'm sure you, like myself, have seen people come in who are like, I know so many people, I know this area better than anybody, I can do this job. And, within 6 months, it's like, whatever happened to, what's their name? Like,
Right. No, it definitely does have a way of showing the people who are willing to work. I think, when you talk about the real estate industry, there is an absolute ability to sell a decent amount of houses and make a very good living, right? And then there's another aspect of this business of which there are people who treat it like a business. And so, I would love to know kind of how your journey went from being a solo agent wearing every hat that there is. You're doing your own paperwork, you're doing your own things, you're having to sell and market yourself, to where it is now of actually looking at your business as a business and having that leverage. I mean, how have you been able to transition in that space from it all being on you to being able to build a business that's sustainable?
I've always been the type of person that likes collaboration. Um, you know, Obviously, what was invaluable to me was coaching with you for multiple reasons, for accountability, strategizing, which was extremely important in the beginning. Taking as many classes as possible, you know, surrounding myself with other agents who had businesses that I was hoping to one day have, to see how they do things, to see how they operate, how they interact with their team, with their clients. And luckily, the first brokerage I started off with, uh, I went into business for myself, but I never felt I was in business by myself alone. It was, I like to refer to those first couple of years as in that office with those particular people as the most collaborative competition that I've ever experienced. Because at the end of the day, we are all competing in the same market. I mean, there's enough business for everybody,
Right.
but the generosity of people's time and knowledge, and sharing that, with myself and others, was a huge help, a huge benefit. Um, and it was daunting. In the beginning, the first hire that I made was a transaction coordinator. And it made sense because that was the money I was spending on that was worth it because I leveraged the time I got back from that to go out and get more business, which allowed me to focus a bit more on starting to market, starting to farm, the other various parts of the business. Because there are so many hats to wear, right? From that point forward, I started getting busier and busier, and it got to the point towards the end of my second year, it was just so busy. I wasn't sure like how to handle it. If you recall, I was really panicked. Um, Luckily, I was mentoring another agent who was newer, who was fantastic, who I was like, hey, how would you like to be a showing assistant? Got some leverage there, and that turned into, with a different agent, bringing on a buyer's agent and administrative support as well. So each time I was doing this, taking one of those hats off, it allowed me to be more focused on building the business bigger.
Well, and so with that, there's a whole skill set, and many of them you've kind of peppered in throughout, of farming and marketing and just transaction coordination, other things. So there are a million things to learn as a real estate agent. And then there's this whole new world. Well, it's not new to you, but this world of leadership and leading others.
Mhm.
So how have you developed those skill sets? I mean, it's one thing to put a title on someone. It's another thing to actually lead and encourage others. So how are you building yourself as a leader?
One of the things, one of the many things that I like to do is I pretty much start off my mornings with combing over YouTube for leadership videos. I'm not a big fan of reading paper books, as you know, but Audible and other things like that come in handy. But that's how I like to start my day, learning about leadership from other leaders who have had great success. Each morning, the team starts off with a call every morning at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. It's just a check-in. Usually that's the time I like to share something that I have picked up from the readings or the videos that I've watched. Continuing ed is extremely important. It's no different with my team than it is with my clients. I want to be knowledgeable. It's a relationship business. I want to make sure I'm not just talking about value, but I'm providing value. That's something I keep in mind every day when it comes to my team.
So one of the things that we hear quite often is from people who believe that coaching, like therapy, is something that you only need when something is wrong or you're in a rut. What do you say to people who feel that way?
You're wrong. I hate to tell you you're wrong, but I'll tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I started coaching with you in December of 2017, and I don't think there's a week that we've missed our check-in, not once. That hasn't changed from the time that months and months that I sold nothing and was just like, why am I doing the same thing every week and there's nothing happening? And you're like, you're doing the right thing, stay the course. I didn't miss it then. I didn't miss it in the middle. I don't miss it now because it's important on many different levels. It's important, obviously, for accountability. There's also, at least I find through my experience in coaching with you, it's not just, okay, what are your numbers? What did you do this week? What do you have pending? It is a holistic approach, the way that you approach it. We are human beings. It's a relationship business. Things happen in our lives. And it's funny, I'm reminded of, it wasn't funny when it happened, but in my second year, when I came into one of our coaching sessions and I was like, no, I didn't do anything, the past couple of days. And you're just looking at me like, okay, why are you so nervous? I'm like, my husband caught on fire. And you're like, I'm sorry? Like, I think you thought I meant like, wow, he's doing great. He's on fire.
Right.
I was like, no, he actually caught on fire. And, I got to be around to change his dressings and,
Well, preface, why was he around fire? What
Oh,
industry was he in? You didn't light him on fire.
no, I did not do that. This is not Farrah Fawcett, the burning bed. No, he was a food and beverage director at a hotel, and they were having an event on the rooftop, and someone left a can of grill cleaner next to an aerosol can next to the grill, which exploded as he was standing next to it. He's fine, but I'm reminded of that because that's what I'm referencing. It's like things do happen, that you can't help that affect your business and your life because you're dealing with a human being. And I feel that's one thing that sets your coaching apart from others. It's not just numbers, stats, systems. You do those things, which is extremely important. The other thing that I think is super important that I found value in is the consistency in coaching. Like I've already mentioned, I never miss my coaching sessions with you. But part of that is for the consistency reason, because we get to know each other well. When I'm skirting around something and don't want to deal with it, and you gently like, okay, but let's talk about new business.
Right.
That's invaluable too. It's coaching through many different things that come up, always, with the focus on business.
Right. Well, and I do think that, having that long-term relationship, like you said, to be able to catch things in a moment or to know micro adjustments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
knowing facial expression, knowing those things. I do think, there are certain business models of coaches that work with people for 6 sessions. Of course, we see the people on social media that are sign up for this $29 class thing. What do you say to that, where we have been working together for years, that long-term relationship? Where does that translate into your business and how you lead the people that are on your team that would be a little bit different than if this was just something we picked up and dropped every once in a while?
Oh God, I mean, there's so many things to unpack there.
Yeah, the consistency in coaching and the longevity in that consistency, it translates to the other vendors I work with, to my team. It's I don't ever want to be the leader of, do as I say, not as I do, right? There's being successful in this business takes a level of commitment, a serious level of commitment. And if I can't execute that on my own behalf through coaching, through the other disciplines that I need to do to demonstrate it to my team, then what's the point?
Right. Well, 5 years from now, we're still coaching. That's not a question nor a statement. That's
I'm not retired
obligatory.
yet.
No. What do you see that's going to be the future of your business? Like, what are we talking about 5 years from now? What are we coaching through at that point?
Well, yeah, like we spoke about just before, going from solo, I have, a couple buyer's agents, a transaction coordinator, assistant, and some marketing support through my brokerage. Moving forward now is, as the business requires and needs, we'll add on, possibly another buyer's agent or two, a listing assistant, maybe another listing agent. I want to continue to grow and enrich the people on my team and empower them so I can continue to take a step back so I can work on the business instead of in the business as much.
Okay. So it's not quite been 5 years yet,
No.
as a text message said. What are you most proud of that you've accomplished in the last 4.5 years?
There's a lot of things. I have so much gratitude that I discovered, this industry. I've learned so much about myself, but I think one of the things, and I think it's probably why you do what you do, one of the things that brings me the greatest satisfaction and joy is watching my team grow. Jennifer and Jared were both new to real estate, new to the area, and I brought them on, and just seeing their confidence grow, it's just an amazing feeling. Because honestly, getting into this industry and building this business has changed my life. It has changed my husband's life. And now I have the opportunity to change and at least offer to help change or formulate or grow my team. And the other part of that is, it's not lost on me what an amazing opportunity this is, working with people. I mean, real estate's the one thing, it's building generational wealth. That is an honor. I mean, that's something, it may not be immediately apparent to some people. I know buying my first home, I bought a 2-family. It was a few years before the real estate crash. It was a 2-family that helped us kind of weather the storm. But having that house and, the market appreciating, when we sold that, the funds from that allowed us to fund our life and move here and start a business, and Damien start his own business. That's amazing. Like the fact that people trust me and give me the opportunity to help them get there, so grateful for that. That is never lost on me for a second.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so thankful for you to be with me. I love working with you. I love our friendship, and
Same
for you
here.
making time. I definitely appreciate it. And I know we're going to do this in the future, where we're going to talk about the next 5 years and even more of an impact that you make. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're stuck with me.